Why are we so connected yet so far apart? Did you know that studies suggest that loneliness can be just as damaging as smoking 15 cigarettes a day? In our hyper-connected world, a silent epidemic of isolation is taking a serious toll. What has also completely deteriorated the human experience and that has contributed to people being lonely is social media. Now, why would I start with social media? Because social media has put people in a situation where things aren't real, but you don't realize that they're not real. And I hate to even think about this, but it makes me think about how people spend more time with the people that they work with than the people they live with. Addressing loneliness is possible through conscious effort and societal change. Not just you changing, but everybody changing. It's a community effort.
Hey guys, I'm back with another episode of Mental Wealth. This podcast is used to express thoughts, experiences, and lessons. I aim to be as transparent as possible. If you enjoy an episode, please don't forget to like, comment, and tell a friend. Thank you.
So for about the past year or so, I've been constantly wondering to myself, why are we so connected yet so far apart? And this has been a very reoccurring theme that I've just been noticing in just how we communicate, interact with each other, and various other things that are going on. What primarily brought this to my attention is COVID. During COVID, we spent, months, probably like a year or so in the house. I mean, they had schools online. People had to go to graduations online. I remember one of my graduations during my undergrad, I could only have like 5 people there. And so COVID, I would say, has drastically shifted the way we do everything. But I can't just blame COVID. I really think it was something that was leading up to COVID. And this has drastically changed how we interact with each other. I mean, now especially, I feel for the kids. I mean, you have kids that grew up during COVID. They're probably like 1 or so, and then by the time COVID ended, 5 years. Well, we're 5 years from COVID, but this has drastically shifted the way kids even interact with each other. I mean, if you don't, especially I remember when I was a child, we would knock on our friend's door and ask, can they come outside and stuff, but that has all completely changed. I mean, me just observing my niece and various other kids, even my little brother, and I asked, I'm like, you don't play outside? Like, what happened to playing outside? And I think that's a lost art. On today's episode, I plan to talk about loneliness and the silent epidemic of loneliness. Did you know that studies suggest that loneliness can be just as damaging as smoking 15 cigarettes a day? In our hyper-connected world, a silent epidemic of isolation is taking a serious toll. Today I plan to talk about the modern loneliness epidemic and exploring why it's happening and what we can do about it. So let me start off by defining loneliness. Loneliness is subjective distress from a lack of meaningful connection. Now, I think it's important for me to talk about why I'm calling it an epidemic. But it's being called an epidemic because the alarmingly high and rising rates of loneliness across the demographics and mirroring the spread of a disease. The widespread isolation is a major public health concern due to its strong links to severe mental and physical health issues, kind of similar to smoking. Societal shifts and the paradoxical effects of digital connection have contributed to this broad impact, affecting individuals regardless of background. But I plan to talk about the causes, the consequences, and potential solutions. Because I would be wrong to talk about causes and the consequences of it and not offer some kind of help for this. I plan to talk about societal shifts, technology, health, impacts, and solutions. Let's start off by talking about the connection. The emphasis on self-reliance has definitely impacted community bonds. So I like to think of how it used to be prior to being so socially connected or whatever. People were more community beings and thought more of the collective and how different issues are affecting everybody. And I would say fast forward today's time, people are more, I wouldn't say selfish, but more individual focused. And so by being more individual focused, this is drastically shifted. People even going to community focused events, participating in their communities, joining what do they say, book clubs and various clubs and all kinds of stuff that existed prior to today's time. So it just doesn't exist no more, or if it does, there's low member turnout towards it. It's hard to get people together now, especially like what I've noticed. The only time I can seriously get people together is if somebody died. And I think that's very horrible in itself because you never know when it's the last time you're going to talk to somebody. So I figure the last time I want to talk to somebody should be when they're laying in a casket. So I think it's, as a collective, we have to shift from being so individual focused to more community focused. And especially for the kids. I mean, you got the kids growing up in this and they're not used to knocking on a door, playing outside with their friends and so forth all day. So this has drastically shifted how the younger generation is going to interact with each other. I also believe that the distance has greatly affected the traditional support networks. I mean, nowadays you can live 30 minutes away, 45 minutes away, an hour away from everybody, and it not really bother you as much. But what this has done is made it hard for the past traditional support networks to exist in the same way it did. I mean, you used to borrow sugar from your neighbor and stuff like that, or your neighbor come over and be the babysitter, and that kind of doesn't exist with people being so geographically isolated that it is kind of taken away from the human experience and having to interact with each other. And this is what is completely decimated communities also, because you can't, since we became so individual focused, people only care about their self and what they have going on and not really collectively what everybody has going on. With the decrease, like I mentioned earlier, but with the decrease in participation in community groups, it's directly impacted social interaction. I mean, people used to have neighborhood cookouts and lots of events, and now it just doesn't exist. I mean, at the most you might see a neighborhood garage sale or something, but you're not really seeing as much events or people getting together. A lot of people don't know their neighbors. I can't speak of that for myself because I literally grew up with the neighbors both sides. I mean, they've seen me since I was this tall to who I am now, and I'm blessed to be in this position because a lot of people don't have as great neighbors and as great of a community around them. But I think what actually helps people move forward is just getting out in the community. I mean, I walk around my neighborhood every day. I pet the dogs, hug the kids, or whatever. I mean, every time I see somebody or a car passes, I wave. And it makes me feel better. And this probably comes back from the positive psychology class I took in my undergrad. But just getting out and talking to people you wouldn't have talked to, or just getting to know people, just makes me feel a lot better. And then it lets me know that we're not so far away from humanity and it's possible. I think it's important for you guys to reflect on your own these societal shifts and how they've affected you, and to make changes where they need to be made. What has also completely deteriorated the human experience and that has contributed to people being lonely is social media. Now, why would I start with social media? Because social media has put people in a situation where things aren't real, but you don't realize that they're not real. And it just like how if somebody, you can know somebody, but if they don't like your picture or they don't wish you happy birthday or something on social media, you kind of think that affects your relationship in real life. And I probably understand this so much because I remember growing up without social media and what life was like before social media has shifted how we interact with each other and how we see things. But now it's like people do, they say they do anything for the gram or they do anything for Facebook. And people do, I think what has contributed to this is the dopamine and all the great feelings you feel from the artificial connection that you've been able to get from being online. Like when people like your picture or you think you went viral or any of this. But I feel like it has completely deteriorated the complete human experience. Because it's artificially giving us something that we should be seeking in real life. If that makes sense. And I think by people not getting out and talking to each other, it's a lot easier to just conversate over social media and stuff, but it's drastically shifted what people have going on. And I hate to even think about this, but it makes me think about how people spend more time with the people that they work with than the people they live with. And the more I realize this, the more it makes me value every connection or every talk I have with anybody I care about. Because, I mean, you should be grateful that they even took out the time to talk to you and give you any of their time. And it's easily understandable as to what has helped contribute the lack of human interaction. I even think about just the constant people having to work and people not being able to spend time with their kids, and they have to work because they have bills to pay and so forth. And with the cost of living going up, it really takes more time away from the people you care about. And I feel like this is even more reason to really try to be intentional with the way you're getting out and conversating with people. And it's easy to see what has also helped contribute to people to this loneliness epidemic. I think it's important for me to talk about the difference between the online interaction and the deep, meaningful connections. But I would say just like making friends online is a lot different than making friends in real life. And I know this may be hard, but it's very easy to make friends in online. I mean, you can like somebody's picture, just DM them like, yo, you want to be friends or something. But to actually make friends in real life, you have to find, I would say, common interests, and you have to build up the courage to go and speak to somebody, or you have to build up the courage to come speak to you. And then you have to learn how to communicate, read body language, and think more than just thinking of yourself. And I feel like online that is completely, it's not really the case, because you're not really friends, but people have been able to use these artificial friendships to try to fill voids, but they're not quite filling them. Because it's nothing like just going to lunch with some of your friends or just going to the park or any of that. And that's why I still make it very important now. Like when some of my friends come into town or whatever, I'm like, bro, let's go get something to eat, or like, let's go work out or something. Because I mean, I probably talk to them every day online or through the phone or something, but it's not the same. So and then you never know what somebody's going through. Also with the constant comparison, this is completely deteriorated all relationships. I wouldn't even say, including friendships, actual like dating relationships, all relationships. But it's like I see it all the time with like relationships. Like it could be like your relationship could be going just perfectly fine and everything's smooth, but then your partner is mad because you didn't post a picture of them online. And I'm like, this can't be serious. But people, there have been plenty of people who've dealt with arguments over this fact. But I'm like, they like you in real, or they treat you good in real life. They respect you. They listen to you. All kinds of things. But you're frustrated with the fact that they're not posting you online. I'm like, this can't be serious. But this has become an epidemic in itself, because people are constantly comparing their lives to people that they don't know. And this constant comparison, like, everybody posts the best things that they have going on online. Nobody's going to post and be vulnerable and show their bad side. That's just not what it's for. So by you comparing your best, somebody else's best moments with you not so good moments that you're currently going through, you'll always feel inadequate, and you'll always feel like there's something missing. And by people, just I see even on their birthdays, and somebody might see that their partner bought them a car, and then they're mad that you got them a bag or something like that. I'm like, this can't be real. But a lot of times people might lease the car, they rent the car. You never know what somebody's real situation is, but you have people literally comparing their lives and ruining the relationships that they have in person for online gratification. And it makes me even think about talking to women. I'm like, dang, you used to have to build up enough courage, enough confidence, to go approach a woman and actually talk to her and like try to get her phone number or whatever. But now it's like I could just slide in your DM. So this has completely shifted the game. That's why even now I kind of see social media as like dating websites. I really don't see them as like how other people try to say that they are, but they're really just, especially Instagram, is just really just a dating website. This is why the dating website companies are being killed, because They're competing with Instagram, and people aren't really realizing that yet. But even just talking, let me go back to talking to women. But I remember me, I would literally have to, I kind of would be nervous, sweating or whatever. But I remember either my dad or one of my uncles, they told me like when I was very young that women like confidence. So it completely shifted the way that I would have conversations with women. And just being yourself and not trying to be somebody you're not. And then now it's like it's a lost art to try to talk to a woman. Like guys really don't have any more game. Like having game and actually talking to a woman in real life is a lost art. You have guys that will see a woman in real life, not say anything to her, and text her later on that night and be like, "Did I just see you at the club or something like that?" And I'm like, "Bro, you're lame. Like just say something to her in real life. Like what is this?" But I mean, it's been working until it doesn't work, but it's a lost art. I think also another problem is a lot of people stay in bad or harmful relationships because they just don't know how to be alone. And I know I made this about loneliness, but I think there's a proper way to be alone. And I think a lot of people, they distract themselves with the day-to-day life routines, like going to work or whatever. Or they stay busy so they don't have to focus on what they're going through, or they don't have to deal with any of their problems. And I feel like this is also detrimental to the human experience. Now I'm going to get into the consequences of this loneliness. But for those struggling with the quiet pain of loneliness, it's vital to understand the profound connection to serious mental health challenges. Chronic isolation can fuel a distressing cycle with depression, amplifying feelings of sadness and worthlessness, while also heightening anxiety and the inability to cope with stress. Tragically, this deep sense of disconnection and despair can, in its most severe form, contribute to suicidal thoughts. Raising awareness of these critical links is the first step toward creating a more understanding and supportive community. There are also physical impacts. Chronic loneliness profoundly impacts physical health, weakening the immune system by altering gene expression in immune cells, making the body less able to fight off infections. It also strains the cardiovascular system, increasing blood pressure and the risk of heart disease and stroke, comparing it to major risk factors like smoking. Ironically, numerous studies link the persistent loneliness to a significantly higher risk of premature death from all causes. I think it's important for everybody listening to this, watching this, or whatever, to reflect on how loneliness might be impacting their well-being. Now, solutions. I can't be all doom and gloom. I gotta give you something. But focusing on quality connections. This can be done by emphasizing the need for meaningful relationships and not just increased contact. A lot of times you ask somebody how they're doing and they just say good. And that's just the normal thing that we do as humans. Instead of somebody sitting down like, you know what, man, I'm having a bad day, or I haven't been feeling like myself lately. It's rare that you ask somebody how they're doing and they don't say good. I think it's important to try to not have as many surface level conversations or relationships. And you're not wrong for wanting more out of relationships. Sometimes you're wrong for wanting it from the wrong person. It's one thing to just contact somebody. It's another thing to really openly communicate and actively listening to them and reflect. Another thing that people should do is build some social skills. I think it starts by just getting out and interacting and just getting around like-minded people, or a lot of times getting in places that you don't know anybody, so it forces you to interact. I remember I went to, a business conference last year, InvestFest, and it was just me, and the whole time I was nervous, but the great part about me going by myself is that I had to talk to people, because I couldn't just talk to one of my friends or my spouse the whole time. I had to literally go up to people, introduce myself, talk to complete strangers, and hold conversations with these people. And it made me better for it. And even looking back on the experience, I'm kind of glad I went alone, because it forced me to get out of my But doing things that, just putting yourself in the right situations, going to workshops or cookouts or various events that might interest you. But just sitting there on your phone at home scrolling all day isn't going to help you. I think what is also important too is to remember that to improve the loneliness epidemic, it has to be community focused and not individual focused. And so I think even people just, all right, if I live farther away, I should commute to town more just so I can talk to people or introduce myself, or even just getting lunch with coworkers or various friends throughout the week. There's a lot that has been missing from the human experience. So I feel that the best way to help in this is getting out and focusing on the community and not being so individual focused. I think what is also very important is to limit your screen time and balancing just being online and offline and the interactions that you're having on both. I mean, I like to look at my in-person interactions as more meaningful than the interactions that I have online. I mean, just because I forgot your birthday doesn't mean we're not friends, or I didn't tell you happy birthday doesn't mean we're not friends. But I feel like that's another problem in itself too. But just looking at how we've been able to be so connected yet so far apart. All the screen time, more screen time doesn't help. I mean, I've read a lot of articles and read a lot of books and stuff, but I wouldn't say that helps me fully with my in-person conversation skills and so forth. I think what only helps that is just getting out and doing it. And I think what is finally important is to take small steps. Now, I'm not asking you to just go join as many groups as possible or join the choir or join this and that, but just take small steps like, all right, I'm going to eat out of this day, and then the next time I'm going to sit at the table with somebody, and then the next time I'm going to introduce myself. I think take small steps, and these small steps can help build the confidence and courage to be able to talk to somebody. Or if it's somebody you've always been wanting to take on a date, just take small steps, like introduce yourself. You might take the full shot right then, or you might go for the layup or the floater or something. But I think it's important to just understand that everything is a process and it just doesn't happen overnight. If you've been struggling with being lonely or struggling with just sitting in a house and just not feeling like yourself, it's a process. It was a process that got you to feel like that, and it's also going to be a process that's going to get you out of that. It's important to realize that loneliness is a very complex issue that has been developed through many different things that have happened throughout our lifetime, and that has caused it to be such an epidemic and so detrimental to the human experience. And if there's anything that I've missed even talking about, I definitely want you guys to comment down below and just share with me a different perspective, because I really made this show to create perspectives or just to hear different perspectives on various topics. But addressing loneliness is possible through conscious effort and societal change. Not just you changing, but everybody changing. It's a community effort. If we want the human experience to be any better and to get better, there's the only one way to do that, and that's by making an effort. And not just you, but encouraging somebody else. Bring somebody with you. That's what I always hear. I want you to reflect on your own experiences and on your own connections and consider what steps you can take to improve your relationships. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll be back with you for another. Peace.